por el tiempo y para todos los que ya están conectados. Muy buenos días y buenas tardes a los que nos acompañan desde Europa. Mi nombre es Lynette Solway, soy directora de Transferencia Tecnológica y Economía Circular de la Fundación Empresarial Chile y hoy seré la moderadora de este webinar. Espero que todos estén muy bien y que puedan disfrutar y aprender de las presentaciones y conversaciones que se van a dar esta mañana y también participar con preguntas. Les explicaré un poquito después cómo podrán hacer eso. Este es el segundo webinar que organizamos sobre la temática de economía circular y su rol en la reactivación de la economía y las oportunidades que presenta este modelo, sobre todo en el contexto actual de las distintas crisis que estamos viviendo a nivel mundial. Y hoy nuestros expositores compartirán sus perspectivas y visiones respecto a la transición a una economía circular que nos pueda en Chile orientar, dar pistas, inspirar también respecto del camino de Chile hacia la adopción de este modelo. Antes de partir con las presentaciones, me es grado dejar con ustedes al presidente de Chile, el señor Vicente Carrús, para que comparta con nosotros unas palabras de bienvenida. Buenos días, don Vicente.
Muchas gracias, Lynette. Señoras y señores participantes, amigas y amigos, que por lo que nos informan son numerosos hoy día. Las personas que se han inscrito en este web seminar, distinguidas y distinguidos presentadores y panelistas, todos ellos personalidades en este mundo tan necesario hoy día, que es el mundo de la economía circular. La Deja Godina, Frick van Hayek, Lynette Solway, todos ellos les agradezco mucho y sean ustedes muy bienvenidos a este encuentro. Agradecemos su disponibilidad para aportarnos con sus conocimientos y experiencias en esta reflexión sobre la ruta de Chile hacia la economía circular. Ustedes comprenden muy bien, mejor que nosotros, lo que esto significa, porque han recorrido ya parte de ese camino, y lo que significa especialmente para enfrentar el enorme y complejo desafío que tiene nuestro país, pero el mundo también, para diseñar y aplicar una urgente recuperación que sea sustentable y al mismo tiempo aceptable y eficaz socialmente, económicamente, política e institucionalmente. La economía y la sociedad del futuro requerirá necesaria e imprescindiblemente de innovación, circularidad, asociatividad, y esperamos que esa sociedad y esa economía sea también globalizada y solidaria. Enfrentar su diseño y aceptación será de una complejidad nunca vista. Y es muy verdad hoy día que, y aquí voy a usar unas palabras que me encontré en estos tiempos en que estamos muy concentrados en nuestras casas, unas palabras de Tomás Tranströmer, ese sueco premio Nobel tan especial. Él dice, hoy día es verdad que sobre el mundo anda una tormenta más seria, pone su boca sobre nuestra alma y sopla buscando el tono. Y también es verdad, sigo con Tranströmer, que los acontecimientos futuros existen ya. Yo lo siento, dice él, ellos están ahí afuera. Mucho éxito a todos ustedes en esta reflexión y muchas gracias por participar. Gracias.
Muchas gracias, señor Carrús, por sus palabras. Como muchos de ustedes sabrán, la economía circular se propone en contraposición del modelo lineal actual, donde extraemos recursos, los transformamos en productos que usamos y finalmente desechamos. Y la economía circular tiene como concepto principal eliminar el concepto de residuos y mantener por el mayor tiempo posible los recursos, materiales y productos en circulación en la economía, en los ciclos productivos, tal como es el caso en la naturaleza, ¿no es cierto? Donde en realidad no existe este concepto de residuos. Bueno, y en Eurochile creemos que la economía circular tiene sentido. No solamente porque es una herramienta que nos permite, que es muy importante para abordar la crisis climática y mantener la actividad económica dentro de los límites del planeta, sino que también porque nos puede permitir avanzar hacia una sociedad más justa e inclusiva, generando oportunidades de empleo y desarrollo para todos y sin duda para las pymes que forman parte de nuestro público objetivo en la Fundación. Y sin duda, Europa es el continente que hoy lleva la delantera en el desarrollo y adopción de una economía circular. Y cuando en 2016 la Dirección General de Medio Ambiente de la Comisión Europea, liderada por su director general, Daniel Calleja, decidió realizar su primera misión empresarial de economía circular fuera de Europa en Chile, acompañado de más de 60 empresas, fue con un gran honor y gusto que Eurochile los apoyó, iniciando una labor de difusión de este modelo en el país que seguimos realizando hasta el día de hoy. Y sin duda hoy este modelo se vuelve aún más relevante en el marco de la reconstrucción y reactivación de la economía para, como si bien lo dijo Daniel Calleja en la presentación hace 2 semanas, build back better together. Ese concepto de reconstruir mejor y conjuntamente una nueva economía y sociedad. Bueno, y desde entonces hemos realizado varias actividades. Ejecutamos el primer proyecto Corfo enfocado en economía circular, donde trabajamos con un grupo de pymes del rubro de metalmecánica para transferir conocimiento desde Europa en temáticas de industria 4.0 y economía circular. Luego, en diciembre de 2018, puede ser que algunos de ustedes hayan participado, organizamos junto con el Ministerio de Medio Ambiente y la ONUDI el Foro de Economía Circular, o FEC Chile 2018, donde de hecho el Ministerio de Medio Ambiente lanzó oficialmente el inicio del proceso de construcción de una hoja de ruta de economía circular para Chile. Y un año después, exactamente, el mismo día de 2019, nos encontramos en Madrid, en el marco de la COP25, donde organizamos una exitosa conferencia sobre economía circular y donde quiero destacar la participación de Daniel Calleja, Luca Meini, que fueron los expositores de nuestro webinar anterior, pero también la Dea Godina, Freek von Eck, y eso me hace muy feliz porque siento que seguimos cerrando y abriendo estos círculos virtuosos de intercambio que realmente son clave para avanzar hacia una economía circular y más aún hoy cuando hay tanta incertidumbre respecto de nuestro futuro. Bueno, y este año, siguiendo con esta labor, tenemos el honor y desafío de estar apoyando al Ministerio de Medio Ambiente, el Ministerio de Economía, la Corfo y la Agencia de Sustentabilidad y Cambio Climático en la construcción de la hoja de ruta de economía circular para Chile, liderando el proceso participativo y a cargo de la elaboración del documento final de la hoja de ruta. El primer resultado ha sido la elaboración de un diagnóstico de economía circular en Chile, que está libremente accesible en la página de Eurochile y que los invito a todos a leer. Y también, bueno, seguiremos compartiendo avances y resultados del proceso en los próximos meses y específicamente una vez que se abre a consulta ciudadana la primera versión del documento para que realmente esta hoja de ruta sea una hoja de ruta de todos. Si bien cada hoja de ruta tiene que ser propia de cada país, construyéndose con los distintos actores sociales nacionales, la experiencia internacional es sin duda de gran ayuda, sobre todo aquí en Chile, considerando que hay varios países que ya han iniciado su transición hacia una economía secular, podemos decir que tenemos una bola de cristal, de alguna forma, que nos permite aprender de las experiencias previas. Y por lo mismo, y siguiendo hilando estas conexiones y colaboraciones y redes, es que invitamos a la DEA a asesorarnos en el proceso de construcción de la hoja de ruta y que por suerte aceptó nuestra invitación. Y por otro lado, y aquí, bueno, no puedo dejar de agradecer el gran apoyo y excelente disposición de la Embajada de los Países Bajos en Chile, que nos ha apoyado con organizar varias instancias de intercambio con Freik y otros miembros y actores trabajando en la hoja de ruta de economía secular de los Países Bajos para apoyarnos en este proceso. Así que antes de, por fin, dar la palabra a nuestros invitados, solamente recordarles que las presentaciones y discusión de hoy se van a realizar en inglés. Tenemos traducción disponible para los que así lo deseen. Para acceder a esta opción, tienen que seleccionar la opción de interpretación en la misma franja donde aparecen todas las otras funcionalidades. Uno de los botones representa un mundo y debería decir interpretación, entiendo, al menos en la versión español. Ahí pueden elegir la opción que corresponde. Por otro lado, al finalizar las presentaciones tendremos unos 20 minutos para intercambiar y conversar con los expositores, por lo cual los quiero invitar a todos a mandar sus preguntas a través de la función preguntas, que también está en la franja abajo, que podría aparecer como QA, y ahí los invito a hacer sus preguntas en inglés o en español, no importa. Y ahora, finalmente, pasando al inglés, to kick off our session, I have the great pleasure to welcome Freek van Erck, Director of the Holland Circular Hotspot and one of the leading Dutch experts in waste management and circular economy, who will share some insights on the role and opportunities for businesses to implement circular economy in the COVID aftermath. All yours, Freek.
Thank you, Lynette. I'm very grateful for being invited, very humbled to present for so many people. I'm Freek van Eyck. I'm the director of Holland Circular Hotspot, and that's actually the nicest job you can have in the Netherlands. Holland Circular Hotspots wants to make circular economy happen at the international level by sharing best practices from business, by sharing the insight, the tools, and the knowledge from the Knowledge Institute, but also the hard-learned lessons from our government. Let me hide my camera for you not to distract you. So together we want to try to organize win-win solutions for Chile, for the Dutch, for everywhere in the world, and make a contribution to the societal goals and the climate goals. Now, as you know, we just had COVID-19, now we're still in the middle of it. The world came to a stop, supply lines were broken, demand decreased, and in the Netherlands we had the so-called intelligent lockdown. We had also unprecedented economical support packages, and it's only very recent that we had some relaxation to the lockdown. Now, if you look at the numbers, our economic forecast office speaks clear language about the impact. We will have a GDP, let's say, forecast of -6% for this year. Our employment will more than double this year and will continue to decrease next year. So if you ask me what's the outlook for circular economy, in the short run, it looks pretty desperate for small companies. It's about life or death. However, if I look a little bit further, I think this is the wake-up call we probably needed. We see that there is a huge call to build back better from almost all multinationals, from NGOs. This is a unique momentum in time to prepare for the future. And you see even that fossil energy giants like Shell, they increased their climate commitment in this period, even with a low oil price and with COVID-19. You see companies like DSM enlarging their circular economy ambitions. A few days ago, we saw that Apple has increased its climate ambitions. So I think we can say that the outlook looks better than ever before. But let's be serious, COVID-19 is a wake-up call. If you look at this graph, we're just having the peak of COVID-19, and we're thinking that we're happy when it's almost over. But if we're serious, if we wait, if we can think ahead what might come at us in things of climate impact, resource crisis, resource wars, more migration. Let this be a serious warning card that we really, there's an urgency to prepare better. Now, we are very lucky in the Netherlands that we're part of Europe, and that's an old continent that has to reinvent itself. And they're doing that with a Green Deal. They want to be climate neutral by 2050. And that will carry out a huge serious initiative to protect the environment and boost the green economy. And of course, circular economy will be a large part of this. So let me share some lessons from the EU Circular Economy Action Pact. Circular economy is a system change, and that means you have to touch upon everything. It's changing the way we make and consume products. So it's about design, it's about involving consumers, it's about sustainable production processes, but also about focus that others can follow. So focus on value chains like electronics, batteries, packaging, plastics, textiles, etc. And traditionally, circular economy often starts with waste management, but in Europe, it's about less waste and more value. It's, as Ladea for sure will tell you, it's about circular economy for people, for regions, for cities. So it's about jobs. It's about stakeholder engagement. And of course, it touches on lots of other items. The synergy between the climate goals and circular economy, for instance. It's about the economy, what we need so much. And it's about setting the right priorities for innovation for the future. And we cannot do it alone. And the Netherlands for sure not. We are a tiny, tiny country, but not even Europe. So it's about global efforts, not only national plastic pacts, but also European plastic pacts and global plastic pacts. It's really about collaboration everywhere around the value chain. And if you want to manage something, you have to be able to measure it. So it's also about monitoring and setting up KPIs. So for us, that's very good. But let's get back to our tiny little stamp on the North Sea. For us, I think circular economy is something which comes from quite natural for us. We live in a vultural delta. We had to work very hard together since the Middle Ages to keep our feet dry. And we have been working for at least 150 on waste management. But it's only since 2060 that we have a dominant overarching circular economy ambition and agenda. And that makes very much sense for a resource poor country. So we have the ambition to be fully circular in 2050. And in 10 years from now, we want to have reduced by 50% the use of non-renewable raw materials. That's really crazy. It's really a moonshot, yet it's very inspirational. Well, this vision came to life in 2016. We reached large support from society in a so-called raw materials agreement in 2017. We went to work. We made it specific in 2018 in the transition agendas. And then our government approved these agendas, and now we're in the implementation phase. So with a clear program for these transition agendas for 2019 to 2023. Now, and having an ambition alone, a moonshot is not enough. You need to have a clear focus to attract a critical mass of stakeholders. And we choose 5 areas where there is economic potential, sustainable potential, and also very important transition readiness. So a coalition of the willing. So we have biomass and food, plastics, manufacturing, construction, and consumer goods. But then again, that will not be enough. So you have to tweak the system, as we say. You have to look at interventions like fostering legislation and regulation. It's intelligent market incentives, the carrot and the stick, rewarding and punishing. For instance, a ban on plastic bags or straws. It's about access to financing to make sure that those things which have a far better total cost of ownership actually get a chance to get on the market. It's also about the right choices in innovation, research and development, because we need to work on future challenges. So these are different from the challenges from the past. And it's also about you and me, about behavior change, how we separate our waste, how we buy things. And last but not least, it's international collaboration. That's what we do as Holland Circular Hotspot. Now, what we learned in the Netherlands, that it's key to have the business perspective very clear, because they will be key for scaling up. We can't do it alone. It's the businesses which have to show guts, take risk, invest, and accelerate. And remember, we are in COVID-19. Now, the firemen are out and they are going on with cost cutting, but we have to invest for the future. But I think COVID-19 made us realize that business as usual is not an option. It's not resilience. And if you look ahead, you know that you have to work on future markets, and it makes sense. Think about how platform models can create more revenue. And if you give something a second, a third, or a fourth life, then you get more value from your materials. And by working together down the value chain or in an ecosystem, you communicate that it's less risk and, more important today, more resilience. That's what investors also want after COVID-19. And as the firemen are now cutting costs, well, using less materials, less energy, less water is less cost. So that's a no-brainer. And it's, if you see this picture of this guy on the upper right, that is the former CEO of the Dutch chemical company DSM. And he said something really beautiful. He said, how can you claim to be successful as a company in a society that fails? He is right. This is about future markets. You have to act now. But that's, it's a long road. It's a system change. It's not something which will go overnight. It's from a traditional approach of reduce, reuse, recycle. You have to go to 9 R's with actions in the design phase, with actions in the usage phase. And at last, it's about recycling recovery, but only at last. If you look at this graph on your right side, if you don't do anything, then you have a blind spot, then you will turn out to be a loser. It often starts with better use of materials, but if you stay there, if you don't go further, then you will lose out again, because there will be new entrants with platform models, sharing models. So you have to move on to new economic models. So keep moving, learn fast, fail fast, and go ahead. Now, that's nice to talk about that, but let me just show you something from experiences after COVID-19 and how circular economy models can help, especially after COVID-19. I will touch a few sectors, and I'll start with manufacturing, because manufacturing, I think, is a nice example, because we know from lots of companies that the supply lines have been interrupted. They're often capital intensive goods, and if you don't have the materials, you cannot manufacture, you don't have sales anymore. So we have to keep these materials and goods in production as long as possible. By, for instance, by reusing, by repairing, refurbishment, and remanufacturing. Some examples. Let's have a look at Philips. You know that healthcare is booming at this moment. It's expected to grow very rapidly, and there will be also a need for more affordable medical scanners. Now, Philips Healthcare anticipates this by going circular, by keeping vital parts in the chain, high quality equipment with full warranty, but can provide it at lower cost. And that's, of course, very important. Another inspirational example is from Fairphone. Now, in the design phase, you can probably determine 80% of the environmental footprint. That's massive. Now, they offer us inspiration by not only sustainable source the phone, but also by a modular phone. So when something is broken, you can just upgrade the component and set up the whole phone. I just continue. Well, COVID-19 has actually told us that digital models can work and will work, and they will not go away again. So service models will grow, and sharing models will grow. Now, Signify, the former Philips, offers light as a service. And if you keep the ownership of the product, you keep the responsibility, and you can optimize the material lifespan and energy use. So Signify doesn't sell lamps, but they offer light as a service successfully. For instance, in the building on the right, in the Edge in Amsterdam, the world's most sustainable BREEAM building. So it allows you to work on modular design, energy efficient LED light technology, gradable components, easy maintenance, designed for disassembly and recycling. So energy savings are really significant. Maybe more closer to home, literally. This company is Arend. They produce and supply office furniture. Now, they mentioned actually that the demand for revitalized products is increasing enormously during the COVID-19 period, because customers mainly buy chairs so that their employees can work well at home. And they can supply these revitalized chairs via Arend reuse, because the chairs are already there. They don't need to be reused. So just some manufacturing examples. Now let's move on to plastics. Plastic is truly a fantastic material, and I think it's proven its value in the corona as well. If you only consider that only 14% comes back in a loop by recycling, only 2% is circular, you cannot give up the material is fantastic. There's something seriously wrong. If you can do it as well. So for example, for at least 20% of plastic packaging, reuse already today is economically attractive. With the right EPR in place, you can already recycle mechanically 50% of all materials. Some examples again from the Netherlands. an 18-year-old guy came up with the solution of the ocean cleanup, and recently with the Interceptor. And that's a solution for legacy plastics. So plastics which are in the environment underway, which you can take out. Also very nice is the example from the Great Bubble Barrier. 3 female entrepreneurs created a bubble stream in a river, and the bubbles take the floating plastic at different layers, bring it to the site where it can be collected. Now, great to solve the problem of plastic. We know we have to be closer to the source. So we talk a lot about things being recyclable, but that actually means for something to be recyclable, it has to be collected, sorted, recycled, and actually be applied. Otherwise, it's not recyclable. Otherwise, it's greenwashing. So you need to line up a value chain. Now, on your left, you see the Modulo Upcycle Center, which is a very modular environmental street. In the Netherlands, we separate 24 flows there. You can extend it easily. You can pick it up after 2 years, move it to another site. Now, typically, the plastic packaging fraction from this center goes to a sorting center like Suez, and they make bills out of it with 90% PPE. Now, that's impressive from a technological point of view, but that's not good enough for the market because they need higher qualities in order to actually use it. And so this plastic goes to QCP, and they make 99.8% PP and PE from it. Now, that's a quality that industry can use. And for instance, if you look in the upper right, to the Green Tom, which is a kid stroller. How sensitive can an application be? Now, you can link this chain. You can do it in developed, but also in developing countries with technology like Sweep Smart, who includes manual labor. You can even, in single-use plastic can be made into building materials, like Up is proving. And a company like Danone and Veolia prove that you can have 100% recyclable bottles in countries like Indonesia. So it can be done today. Now, in our country, the Netherlands, we can recycle roughly 50% of all the plastic packaging mechanically. That means, sadly enough, 50% we cannot recycle. So of course, we have to redesign lots of plastics to take that issue away. But still, there will be a large part which we have to tackle in another way. Now, chemical recycling might be such a game changer, which is a lot of things. It's dissolution and depolymerization for monoflows, or pyrolysis and gasification for mixed flows. If the chemical industry is to adopt these technologies, we are talking about a massive scale up and a game changer. So lots of researchers are on their way in the Netherlands, but also abroad. So it's very intriguing to follow. But of course, it's more than recycling. We should try to keep things in the loop. And literally, loop is a new way to shop. And it started with 300 items from detergents to shampoo to mouthwash. And it's considered of reusable packaging which can be filled again. So I'm very curious to see this expand further. Now let's go back to food. I think that's definitely a topic in a country like Chile with climate change happening drastically, I would say. Food is special. We are with 7 billion people on this earth. We make food for 10 billion people. Almost 1 billion people are, let's say, hungry, and 2 billion people are overweight. And we have to double food production towards 2050 to feed the world. So something is seriously screwed up. But we can work from the whole value chain, from the beginning of the vertebrate to the end. Reduce food waste, cascade organic residues, compost them, digest them, turn organic waste to chemicals, change diet. Let me just show you a few examples. So this, let's say, very amicable example is from Protex. They grow the larvae of the black soldier flies on organic waste. They harvest the larvae and they take the proteins out for fish feed. This exists in the Netherlands, but there is a far larger plant, agri-protein, also in South Africa. So this can happen everywhere. This very sympathetic picture is from the Vegetarian Butcher, a startup which anticipates that, let's say, people will buy more meat, let's say, replacements. And now that people have been in a lockdown, you see that there's a reappreciation for clean air, clean streets, but also for healthy food. Organic food is probably growing 8% a year in the Netherlands. So this company has been bought by Unilever. Food which cannot be bought in the sold in the supermarket anymore is still perfectly good for sauces or soups. That's what the surplus food factory is doing. So rescuing food. Another nice example is from the waste transformers. It's basically a small scale digester which works here in the Amsterdam area with the waste of just 14 restaurants. I think there's a huge market for biogas and digestion in Latin America as a whole. What I want to say to you is that circular economy is happening today, that the front-running businesses are embracing it, and it's not something of just the Netherlands, it's about developed and developing countries. And it's really an opportunity after COVID-19 because it's about resilience, it's about future markets, about continuity, but the challenge is enormous. In the Netherlands, we are only 25% circular. And we want to be fully circular. So we are considered a front runner, but we are far away from it. So we need everything we can get and everyone we can get. So together with you, I hope that we can make this happen. Today is the first day of the rest of our lives. Let's make it a circular one. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Freek. It's always very inspiring to see so many examples of companies proving that there is a business case for the circular economy, which I think is very important, right? To motivate and inspire more companies and institutions to move towards that this new model. Next, I would like to present Ladeja Godina. She's founder and CEO of Circular Change, co-author of the Slovenian Circular Economy Roadmap, and for the second year, elected chair of the coordination group of the European Circular Economy Stakeholder Platform, to share with us the work she has been leading regarding stakeholder engagement and leadership for a circular economy. Ladeja, welcome, and the virtual floor is yours.
Thank you very much, first for the invitation, and congratulations to Freek for a really great presentation. It is so nice to be part of this circular community and to share practices, insights, and everything. So I'm looking forward to the discussion afterwards. So therefore, I will jump now into my presentation. Thanking you for the nice introduction as well. And I'm really, I feel privileged that I have the chance to collaborate with you on your national circular economy road mapping process. And as it was nicely said, I would like to share this with the audience as well, that the process as such is the most important. The documents, they count, absolutely, we need them as well. But what happens on this journey, this is what defines us and this is what stays with us. And here the stakeholder engagement, leadership and governance are in the focus. So I will switch to my presentation. Just let me share the screen and let's see. Okay. Okay. I guess it works now. Yeah. So I will focus now more on, let's say, that soft part. We divided this presentation today with Freek, so he really highlighted best practices, and I believe that you're encouraged by that, how much can be actually done, no matter in which sector you work, what kind of activity you provide, whether you're, I don't know, a city mayor or a startup, there is a chance for you to implement circular economy principles. But let's see what is behind, let's say, the scene, what is there and how it works. So I was very much inspired by your previous webinar when Daniel Kaleha invited everyone really to implement circular change now. So we don't have to wait or we should not aspire the better time for that. But really now we should decide upon the principles that are embedded in circular economy and sustainability. So what keeps us awake? Let's see, what is that what we are thinking of, what we are bombarded by via media? On one hand, we definitely have this corona crisis, coronavirus, not knowing exactly what this is and how to deal with that. And this is a very, I would say, a big challenge for everyone, because in the previous decades, we counted very much on science, we counted very much on digitalization, technology, everything. And now all of a sudden, having all that, we still cannot understand this virus or fight and find the way to put it under control. So this is already on this level something what is triggering us and what is really keeping us awake. And on the other hand, of course, we are looking for solutions how to manage our planet, because the planet boundaries are here, the climate crisis is here. And now knowing that this is one part of the problem, as it was already explained before, and on the other now even facing these daily threats caused by coronavirus, we are in a very special situation. So managing both crises now really demands a good crisis management. So we are quite proud that here in Europe, just 2 days ago, our leaders decided on the recovery plan and also on the funding for all these activities that are going to be supported to overcome the crisis, or at least not to overcome, but at least to support the activities that are leading us now forward. So this is one very positive impact, signal, not impact yet, but the question is really, and the challenge for us, how are we going to use this money? Whether we have enough knowledge, competencies, and wisdom to invest it, or is it going to be spent in a way that will not ensure us prosperous future. So we are happy on one side, and on the other we are challenged again how to collaborate, how to work on that this money will be well invested. As Lynette introduced me nicely, I'm also the chair, this is one of the hats I'm wearing, of European Circular Economy Stakeholder Platform in Brussels. And there are 24 members, so 24 representatives of different organizations in our coordination group. But the platform as such has the ambition really to become the network of networks in the field of circular economy. So what we are working on is really trying to monitor what is happening on the ground. So to find those change makers, those circular pioneers and doers and makers that are leading circular change in different countries. And on our website, you can see a lot of good practices, a lot of documents, research, reports, everything is there. You can even open your own discussion related to certain topic. You can find partners for your projects and so on. And what I'm particularly proud of is that this platform is not only the platform of European countries and European members, but in these 3 years, we really brought the voice around the globe. And it is great that people from different parts of the globe are interested to collaborate. Because I am an European, but by being European, I know how much we need each other. So Europe is an old continent, and we have a lot of knowledge and a beautiful culture, everything, but we do not know everything, and we are really open to share and to collaborate. So this platform is also a kind of a spot where this kind of exchange is happening, and we are very much nourishing this kind of relations. So therefore, I'm super happy and really thankful that I can now contribute also to the process of road mapping in Chile. And I'm working with the countries in Western Balkan as well, and they're trying to find their way towards circular economy and on the other parts of the world. So you're more than welcome to visit the website and to see what we are working on and to find inspiration and even partnerships. So here is the list, an overview of the partners of these 24 organizations. And right now the call is opened for the next mandate, because now we are, these 24 organizations are in the coordination group for 3 years. And now the open call for others is to replace us or to join us or however. So this is very active and vivid. I would like to say also how important it is to gain visibility as a change maker, because by having opportunity to introduce and to explain what you have achieved or what you're aiming for, you can find the right partners. And with our tiny organization, Circular Change, based in Slovenia, just to mention, this is the country, the only country with love in its name. But on the other hand, this is the country with only 2 million people. It is less than you have in the suburb of your city. So we managed to become visible through our achievements and collaborations, and were also noticed by World Economic Forum and awarded the finalist for circular economy leadership. And another coincidence or synchronicity at that very same time, the winner of this competition was Frans van Houten, CEO of Philips from the Netherlands. So you see how small the world is. We are connected everywhere. I want to say something more about circular change, just to encourage you that by discussing openly different topics and by engaging different stakeholders, you can come to those priority areas or to those opportunities that you share on the level of the city or of the nation or of, or at least of the region. So that is something what we are doing with our International Circular Change Conference this year virtually, unfortunately, but this is where people meet and exchange and find new ways. So now back to that, those messages I want to share with you today. One is related to stakeholder engagement. So what is in it for me? How we identify with something and become willing to collaborate. The other is related to governance, because disruption is happening in every sector, and we cannot just lead one segment or give focus on one thing. We really have to have this helicopter view and work on a systemic level. And the third is leadership. So how not to compete one against another, but really how to collaborate. Just briefly about stakeholder engagement, I'm highly recommending you the book written by a Dutch author, again, Circular Business, showing concrete examples about how collaboration works in practice. But one important thing is that when we are talking about collaboration, we should understand that we cannot all win at the same time. So in these partnerships, we should aim to make the whole pie bigger. It is not about competing one against another so that one should win and the other lose, but really to be patient and to make this pie bigger so that our piece will become bigger as well. And this is the art of the collaboration. And now in this crisis situation, it is really important to understand it. And at least my personal view is that we somehow now, because we are more vulnerable and we are more fragile, we are also more humble and more willing to collaborate this way, so that we give opportunities one to another. And in theory, it works very nice when we talk about stakeholders and when we say, okay, we should create a map and then enable everyone to contribute, participate. But in practice, too often still the shareholders are those that are, I will use the term dictating, but at least leading the game. So it is important to give space to everyone, really, and maybe not in the final decision making, but at least in the process. And now when the Chile is working on this road mapping process, I'm really keen of that, how different stakeholders are engaged and how they're heard. Because it is very difficult because you cannot meet in person now, everything is going online, and those who are not so strong by their position, who don't have business cards with CEO or minister written on the front page, are sometimes overlooked. But it is really great that you are engaging those as well and making collaboration and discussion possible. And I would like to say how different the world is, because just in January, for example, we've got a very fruitful workshop in Austria, meeting a lot of people, working with them on that, how Austria should move towards circular economy. while right now we are just here at our screens, and the collaboration cannot be the same. So this we should keep in mind. And here is only one overview, because you're in this road mapping process, how European countries went through that. This is a nice survey that has been made by Systemic, and it is showing how different countries in Europe approach circular economy road mapping. So I will skip that one. And here is the map of the organizations that are partnering within the Holland Circular Hotspot, the one that Frick is leading. And this is also a great opportunity for all of us to collaborate and to share knowledge. So from stakeholder engagement to the governance now, as I said, disruption is happening everywhere. Here are just few, two books that I would recommend, A Good Disruption, and another one is Kate's report about Donut's economy. And it is saying that what I would like to share is really then when we are talking about the governance of the circular economy, we should really think about that, how to engage everyone and how to work on the whole with all stakeholders and on using this helicopter view, as I said before. So really to have this big picture and then focusing on concrete actions. Because without that, without having this zooming out and zooming in, we can get lost on the way. So it's really important that we have big picture, but as Frick already emphasized, to have clear goals, management and measurements so that we can go through this transformation. I will skip this one because we are running out of time a little bit. So now I would only like to say something more about the butterfly that is let's say, the icon of the circular economy by Ellen MacArthur Foundation, and to say how, again, important it is to understand that by implementing circular economy, by using these principles, we are actually addressing sustainable development goals. So these are not two things. And sometimes it is, we think in these silos and we say, yes, there are SDGs somewhere there, and we are aspiring to achieve them, but forgetting that circular economy is offering us the tools to achieve that. So here only three pillars, how to address this change and what to focus on. So really we have supply side solutions, demand side solutions, and then the last one. So how to navigate and to address every pillar accordingly, that we put that together into the story that is really systemically approached, and that all these topics are addressed equally. Because whenever we talk about, let's say, Frick emphasized how important it is the energy sector, and in Chile as well, but energy is connected to other sectors as well, so to the land, water, and so on. Or if we are talking about food systems, they're very much related to mobility, logistics, and so on. So to keep it in mind, I will skip this one as well. So just to simplify, that circular economy is really about good management. It is how to maintain value. And sometimes we complicate very much about the definition and trying to find out what it means, but it is really very much related to our common sense. So how to maintain value for as long as possible, and to think about that on every level when we take decisions. And to conclude with leadership, I would like to share with you a slide by Violeta Bulc, former EU Commissioner. She is now really a promoter or of eco-civilization, of this systemic approach, and of this new paradigm, how to transform our systems in a way to make our society and our economy thrive. This is just a food for thought. And when talking about leadership, Jacinda Ardern, I believe that we agree that she is a great example of that, what a leader can do, because she is addressing the societal well-being always. Of course, the economic well-being is important, but we humans are social beings, and without this glue of society and without this collective spirit and sharing of values, we cannot achieve results. On the other hand, as I said before, we have a very clear framework, the European Green Deal, the Circular Economy Action Plan, leading us toward this circular transition. But it is all related to that, how we are going to implement those solutions and to recover our economy, but not by going back to where we used to be, because we should produce less, use less. And messages like this one from Patagonia, don't buy this jacket, are telling us it is not about producing and selling more, it is about reusing, repairing, refurbishing, all those models that were nicely explained by Frick before. So to conclude, there is another book about leadership written by Slovenian author Sonja Klopčić, and she is also introducing very important principles of circular transition and sustainable leadership. So recommend it in English as well. And to wrap up, I hope that I managed to share 3 key messages with you. So one, on the level of stakeholder engagement, really think about this, how to make the pie bigger, because then there will be more for each of us. The second one, about the governance. There is a change, there is a crisis, but we have to embrace it. So because in every crisis lies also the seed for a solution, for opportunity. And about leadership, we should not wait for someone else to lead us forward or to think about that the Messiah will come, but really our daily decisions count. So everyone can contribute to a better world. And I will conclude with my favorite quote of Leonard Cohen: there is a crack in everything, that's how the light gets in. I strongly believe that there is a light, and we are looking forward to collaborate further on and to introduce all those who are working in the field of circular economy and sustainability also within our community, and you're invited to participate in circular change faces behind the circular scene as well. So thank you, and I hope that we have time for questions now.
Thank you very much, Nadeya. I always feel more positive after listening to your presentations. I've heard that Leonard Cohen quote quite a few times, but it always brings back this little spark of hope, right? And positivism and motivation to really keep going. And now moving on to questions, holding on to one of the last points you mentioned, there's a question here that asks, that wants to know whether when approaching or transitioning to a circular economy, it's best to start moving, or whether we should wait for legislation and norms to be ready. So basically, should companies start straight away, or should we wait to get the direction from the political?
Yeah, so my recommendation would be never wait, just do it. But on the other hand, it is very important that it is going hand in hand. So one thing is bottom-up approach. So what is happening on the ground, what company can do, what a city can do, what a startup can do. But on the other hand, it does not mean that there is not a responsibility on the governmental side. So legislation should be in place, incentives should be in place, but by waiting on each other, we cannot move further. So I would say, yes, do whatever you can, but ask the others to contribute as well.
Right. Freek, do you agree?
Well, I come from a country where it's learning by doing, so learn fast, fail fast. If I look back where circular economy started, I think it started with both the startups, the young, impatient entrepreneurs who said, hey, we can do better than what we see today in the market. It's about our future. They come up with these new disrupting models. They started small by just doing it. At the same time, we have a number of quite responsible multinationals as well, who were thinking, hey, we want to be in business in 30, 40 years from now, and we want to have a future market as well. And if you look at a multinational, typically R&D takes maybe 2 years, then you build a plant, which is 1 or 2 years, or permitting is 1 year, then you build a plant, it's 1 or 2 years, and then your plant has to be in operation for 30 years. So now you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that in 20 years from now, there will be probably a far higher carbon price. There will be another reality, and then let's say producer responsibility will punish the polluter more strictly. So by anticipating on it, you create also your future market. Like Dutch multinationals Unilever and DSM, they have internal carbon prices of 40 to 50 euros, which is way, way, way above the market price today. But they say if the business model doesn't work, let's say with that carbon price, this new initiative is not going to happen. So typically front runners, they move, they go. And you have to know that front runners often have the largest market opportunities. They move first. Bad examples are maybe Uber and Airbnb. They had a new idea, they gained the market and a large market share. But there is a role for government as well, because at a certain moment you have to set the new standards, create legislation. It's basically the lowest level in society where you have to be in business. And by that you move the masses of society. And there are always people who resist let's say, to follow, but they will have to be taken out of the market. If you are a late mover, the market will have been taken already. So my advice to you is, let's say, create your own future. This is about the continuity of your company. And it's so rewarding to go down this road. You discover more and more, and it starts with waste, then you move to resources, then you work in your value chain, and then all of a sudden you're inspired by a new business model, not making a chair, but using a chair as a service. It's an interesting road, but we have to keep moving.
Great. And so you mentioned value chains. We have a question here asking how circular economy can contribute to making more resilient these global and regional, local value chains. Freik, if you want to start, and then Ladea.
Well, we now see that, let's say, there is a huge dependency. I read in the newspaper one quote that, for instance, 90% of all the spices of the Unilever ice cream comes from India. So when you have a corona crisis and there is no trade anymore with India, you don't have the spices for your ice creams. I think this dependency, let's say, is definitely something people are working on. Maybe we need shorter supply lines. Maybe you need to make sure that, let's say, you can, let's say, use the materials that you have, you can use it better and longer without all the environmental damage. So you will create a more resilient system. Circular economy is about, let's say, preserving the value, using the value as long as possible at their maximum value. That makes sense after Corona. So I think the same time, we have seen how we all of a sudden reappreciate manual labor, for instance, of the nurses in the hospital. So also the human factor is something that we rediscovered. Actually, we should make materials more expensive and labor cheaper. So really a new system, how we, let's say, incentivize the economic system, because that would favor, let's say, repair, reuse, refurbish, remanufacture, and those things which you don't want, using lots of, let's say, extracting lots of minerals, metals with lots of environmental damage. That's actually what you want to disincentivize. So I think circular economy is one of the best options for a future, in balance with, let's say, nature, respecting biodiversity. It's about social equality, and it's about maximizing, let's say, the resource value.
Great. Ladea, just adding a question to this one. How do you also see Latin America increase its participation in or adopting this circular economy model? Considering especially Chile, that of course a lot of its economy is based on exporting goods.
Yeah, so what my experiences with Latin America so far are with you, with Chile, and with Brazil, because we collaborate with Exchange for Change as well. But what I would like to say, and combine both questions, is really that this COVID crisis brought us back to think about our core values. So what are our core values, and what we need and what we want? And from that is also then when we are thinking about the future economic system and social system and so on, is what are we going to focus on? So what are we going to produce and why? Whom are we going to sell that and how? So industries like tourism, for example, now, it is under big question. So what does it mean to be a tourist in this post-COVID area and so on? So I think that it is really, really challenging now how we are going to put this new world together. I use the metaphor that it is like Lego bricks, you know, and we've got these nice houses and everything, and now they fall apart, but the bricks are still there. Just how to put them together in a new way. And even for Chile, implementing circular economy, I already said that it is important to understand what you as a nation really value, how you would like to preserve the quality of life, and then to make choices according to that. So maybe something what you were not doing so far will become important and so on. And back to the value chains, what we have all faced now is how important is it that they're shorter, because then you can rely on those that are around you. How important this is to know how to reuse materials and so on. And all of a sudden we realized with whom we can collaborate, because before it was like that, oh, we don't have to think about it. But now it is really crucial to understand who in your neighborhood can be your supplier, for example, and so on. So I think we need a lot of exercises in thinking out of the box. So this is recommendations for Chile and for every other country, really not to stick to the world as it used to be, but to use the imagination and to co-create now the world we can and want to live in.
Great. Yeah, definitely. Well, thinking out of the box and collaboration are definitely two very useful tools when adopting circular economy. And continuing from there, what would you say, or what recommendations would you give to a company, let's say a small or medium enterprise that would like to, that's interested in the circular economy, but doesn't really know where to start, and also doesn't really know whether in his country, his or her country, this circular economy model will actually be implemented in the, let's say, short, medium term? What recommendations could you give to actually start their journey towards being more circular, but maybe without the support of the entire ecosystem?
Shall I start with the answer? Well, I think you have to realize that business as usual is not an option. If you realize that, you are more motivated to work on it. We have one of the Dutch bank called the Rabobank, which organized circular challenges for 5 years. And they made an evaluation of why actually companies were participating. And they noticed that actually the companies who were participating were doing that because they knew they had to change, but they didn't know how. And they thought that circular economy would be the answer to provide continuity for their company. And normally, typically, of course, you start with waste, less cost, but then you move on. If you look what you can do yourself, you can maybe directly influence 3 to 5% of your output. But if you want to do more, you have to look at your customer, at your supplier, and together you can do much more. And maybe you realize if you look around you in your industry park, that you can exchange lots of materials or even people or knowledge with your neighbors. So it's basically a discovery, and set the first steps and go on. And the best thing is, of course, follow the webinars of Chile, follow the webinars of Circular Change or Holland Circular Hotspot. We have on our website something like a self-service option with lots of inspiration, best practices, tools, references. So have a look what's available already there on circular economy. You cannot do it alone. You need to work together. And I think there is a role for local governments to bring the actors together, to work with the front runners, give them a stage, to create a pull factor by, for instance, circular procurement, to organize meetups, to put young people together in circular startups, use challenges, and let's say provide the example, also give direction. If you have an ambition as a small town, even a small town in Chile, you can do a lot in certain fields. You can create a plastic valley or a renewable energy valley, or let's say a city agro-food hub. Choose your ambition and bring the stakeholders together to make it realized. So you can do a lot more, and a lot more things are happening today than you think. But you probably don't call it circular economy. You call it waste management, resilience, climate adaptation, whatever. But there's so many things happening already today. And once you see that around, and you notice that, you get inspired. You think, hey, this is not from Slovenia or from Holland. It's about us, our examples, and dare to be the first mover. So show some guts, be inspired, and go for it.
Adea, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, maybe, yeah, just to add that there are a lot of opportunities Frick already explained. So one thing is to get inspired by others. And the other is also to think again, how can you do small things, maybe to start as a startup, you know, to replace something what is now a product with a service, or how to really go into repair business. And I'm going back to these values because it is always so important. What in a certain society, what is appreciated, or what is awarded, or what is accepted. Because in some countries, it is like manual work is less important than intellectual work. But we see now in this Corona crisis how important it is that we are handy, that we can repair things, that we know how to reuse them. And I think that this is a very good signal also for young or new entrepreneurs. It doesn't matter how old they actually are, but those who are looking for business opportunities, because it is about how we are going to survive in this new reality. And business is changing already. And if you're thinking now about that, yes, how can I earn money for me, my family, and so on, and using these circular principles, maybe you will find the opportunity for your business much faster than by looking at a big multinational company and the complex business model and so on. So here I see really that by implementing these principles, by studying a little bit circular economy case studies, and by looking at how we used to live 50 years ago, a lot of opportunities can arise. So just be open and go for it.
Great. And definitely one of the aspects we've received a lot of questions, and we won't have time to answer them all, but I think an important factor also is as Fred mentioned, there's a lot being done. It's just not being called circular economy, and we need to really shed light on all those initiatives, and we can put the name of circular economy on it, but the most important is that people understand that there is a business case behind implementing circular economy, and that maybe they are already implementing some circular economy initiatives that they just don't know are considered circular economy. It's not all high-tech innovation and high investment and the work of big companies. So now we'll take two last questions. My first one is for Ladea. And I'd like to know, how do you recommend, how in Europe, how in Slovenia, and how in other countries in Europe, do you work with all the actors, especially civil society and just citizens, to promote the circular economy?
Yeah, it became more difficult now because we cannot work collectively and come together. We don't have a complete lockdown in Europe and in Slovenia, so this enables us still to meet less people and collaborate. But let's think about that we are under the lockdown, because this is this is the scenario that a lot of countries are facing. So what is important now is really to use this social capital. So to think about those that are within the network. So if you're organizing something, really not, as I said before, not just to think about the big names, big companies and so on, but use your network, your private or your social network, and find out those who are the right thinkers for what you have to think about or work on. So then really to make smaller groups. So it is now important that you give space to everyone to contribute. So if you have online events, workshops, it is important that there are less people, but the more contribution. Then the feedback is important. I would say it is because we are already tired of these screens and everything. And if we don't see the impact of our work or the investment of our time, it doesn't count. So my recommendation would really be keep on working, even if in this virtual world. Organize well, prepare well, then give the feedback, and then do something what is tangible and what people can take a look at, because we need to experience things. So this would be also a suggestion. And when talking about the stakeholder engagement, it means more smaller groups, but then collectively check the ideas and give the opportunity to those that are from different groups to reflect on the results of each other. So really to keep this momentum and to work jointly, not to be isolated.
Perfect, great, thanks a lot. And Freek, a last answer for you. How, and we've discussed this in some of our meetings, how do you work with, well, here it's mentioned the big polluters, but the big companies that are more maybe, that take more time to change, that don't want to change, that appreciate the business as usual. For example, also here they've mentioned the mining industry. How do you push these big industries and actors to make a change?
Well, normally what we try to do in the Netherlands, we work with the front runners. We show that it can be done, and with the front runners, we determine the future market. And let's say in the end, let's say the laggards will belong to the losers. No, let's say coal-fired power plants in the Netherlands, they will be phased out, they will be closed. But if you, let's say, ignore them, they will become a major opposition part. And because these are often very powerful companies with lobby capacity. So it's very important not only to think with the winners of a circular economy, to also to work with the losers, not only fight with them, but give them time to adapt and let them invest and reconvert their business or retrain their people into a new, more circular future. I think I gave the example of a company like Shell, oil company, fossil company, which basically increased its climate ambitions while in the midst of Corona time, and while the oil price had never been lower for many, many times. And they do that because they felt the pressure of society. So keep the pressure in society and let them know that they are a loser, but work with them to find a solution that they don't become let's say, an opponent. You mentioned mining industry. That's of course interesting. I think in Chile, mining industry has to be circular just because of water issues. You need water for mining, and there is no water, so you have to treat water in a very circular way. In Europe, we had the European Innovation Partnership for Raw Materials, where they were looking at, let's say, critical access to materials, the future of mining, to have mines which are completely underground, so to have less disturbing factors to the environment. So to make mining even acceptable, because also Europe will need mining in the future to get access to the materials. But I think more tactically, let's say, I can travel a little bit for my job, and I've been in Canada, I've been in Australia. And if I then look at Chile, I see countries that have a tremendous wealth, mineral wealth, but they squander it in a way. They export it without adding value. I think the challenge is to keep the value in the country and to make maybe circular products in the country and then use circular business models. So look more smartly about the future of your economy in a way. For mining, maybe that means reposition mining in another, let's say, in another dimension, and actually diminish also the environmental footprint of mining, the water, the environmental damage, of course, and make mining also socially acceptable if you want to be in business in the future. You can stretch it for a long time, but if you are the last in the game, let's say you don't have time to reposition anymore. And again, with examples of Shell or companies like Apple, they are moving because they know that the front runners will be in business. So let that be a short answer. I see companies like some of the companies you have in your country are also in our country. Our legislation system is different. So here they have to move, and you see them moving faster. So you see that industry is really with the R&D programs looking at the energy to be renewable. Instead of using fossil fuels for the input, they are thinking about bio-based or waste as an input. It's about valorization of residues from organic waste to maybe to make chemicals or to make asphalt from lignin, for instance. So depending on the setting, you see companies move further, faster or not. So the idea is work with the front runners in Chile, but make sure that you raise the bar for every other company, that the mass has to move, and the laggards you have to take out of the market, of course, as a government in time. I hope that's an answer to your question.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I really like this idea of working with the front runners. I mean, again, showing that it can be done and there is a business case, and that there are opportunities for all sectors and all actors. The circular economy is not only for a few, it has to be for everyone. And to end off this webinar, I'd like to finish on maybe a positive note. So if you could both, starting with Ladea, share with us what you believe is the biggest opportunity the circular economy brings, and maybe especially considering the current global situation.
I think I believe in people. So I see in this crisis, both climate crisis did not bring us this shock, but now the corona crisis did, that we are waking up. And I'm optimistic in a way that the good will come out, and by this good and by this willingness that we collaborate in this new way, the circular economy that used to be something what was normal. So circular economy as a concept is not something what we invented, but that we will realize that going back in a way that we are moving forward is bringing us towards a thriving society. So I count on this wisdom and on this inner strength of each and every human.
Thank you very much, Ladea. Freek?
I'm a little bit in line with Ladea. In the end, it's a bit, it's with people. You remember the little cartoon I saw with the little peak with the corona crisis, and there is this huge climate peak behind us. So what if there's one lesson to be learned from the corona crisis, that we are hugely dependent and we cannot continue like this. But it goes a little bit further. People have been locked up. They reappreciate clean air, good food. They reappreciate jobs, which we have maybe ignored a little bit, like the work the nurses are doing. We have seen that the digital tools can actually work and give also opportunities for maybe disabled people, for instance, to be active in the workforce. So there is an awareness that it's critical, very critical, to go to a new economy. And we have seen signs that it can be done in a different way, and that there is a role for food, etc. So the awareness is the big thing. And for me, if you look at the future, it's still uncertain, but the best way to predict the future is to create it, to quote Abraham Lincoln. Just create your own future, make your first step, and learn from the Dutch, learn fast, fail fast, and you will see it's very rewarding. And there can so much be done. You start small, but you have to scale up. But on the negative note, the sense of urgency is huge. If you really want to reach climate targets, we want to be ready, then we need everything on board. Also, Chile as an economy, use the crisis. You have a social crisis, economic crisis, corona crisis. Use this to be stronger out of it than ever. A unique momentum. Back to the moderator.
Great, thank you very much for all your inputs and for sharing this time with us. It's always very inspiring and motivating to have these conversations and to learn from what's happening in different places and how that can then be transcribed to Chile in this case. Of course, each country, each region will have a different approach, might have a different approach to circular economy, needs to define what circular economy means for them, but in the end we need to collaborate all together and work together to reach it, because no one can be properly circular on their own. And just before saying goodbye to everyone, I'm going to switch back to Spanish. I have an invitation for all our Spanish audience, or Chilean audience. Entonces, antes de despedir a todos, quiero extenderles una invitación justamente a trabajar esto, a colaborar y aprovechar también la transición a este nuevo mundo digital para participar de unos encuentros virtuales que estamos coorganizando junto con una institución alemana que se llama Bayern Innovative, a través de una plataforma llamada Innovación en Medio Ambiente, Energía y Economía Circular. Estos encuentros buscan generar contactos comerciales y de cooperación tecnológica en áreas como economía circular, residuos y reciclaje, energía renovable, agua y eficiencia energética. La primera fecha de estos encuentros ya se realizó en mayo, si no me equivoco, y participaron más de 650 empresas e instituciones de 43 países, entre ellos Chile con 29 empresas participantes, y dado el éxito de esta primera versión, se extiende la iniciativa hasta el 31 de diciembre. Entonces, si quieren recibir más información, pueden entrar a la página de Eurochile, www.eurochile.cl. Debería haber un banner promocionando este evento, o contactarse directamente con Manuela Carrús, nuestra directora de redes europeas, mcarrús@eurochile.cl, para que justamente puedan participar de estos encuentros y seguir o empezar su trabajo en adoptar una economía circular. So that's it for this morning, this afternoon for you. Once again, thank you very much for participating. We've received a lot of questions. Maybe we'll see if we send some through for further dwelling, and we'll make sure to send your presentations over. There's been a very high interest in receiving them. So thank you very much to everyone. Thank you very much to all our listeners. We've had over 350 people tuning in, so that's very positive, knowing that there's such a high interest. And I think that's also a very, very important aspect of the circular economy, the level of interest on a very cross-cutting level. All actors have interest in this new model that hopefully will become the norm in the next years. So that's it for now. Thank you everyone, and have a great day.